also consider that not everyone, the characterization that everyone in Gaza, that all Palestinians are Hamas, that is negligent rhetoric. That is not true. I've witnessed it and I've seen it.
But hold on,
They're,
Anthony,
they're,
no one believes that. Who believes that? I understand there's two sides to every argument, but I don't think people really believe that every single Palestinian is Hamas. Every single woman, 7-year-old man, 4-year-old child is Hamas. That's not even an argument to be debated. Am I missing
okay.
something?
Well, no, it's not. I hope that that people realize that that's not the case. That there's this, the even some of the narrative from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation at some of these sites is that um, that oh well, that was incited by Hamas. Well, unless you're calling the entire population Hamas, then to what degree? Like, because I've in being at all the sites that I've been there, I have never once seen, not one time, a Palestinian that was armed with a rifle, a gun, a threat. I've never seen a Palestinian returning fire to an IDF shooting at them. I've never seen anyone that was wearing a Hamas T-shirt or a Hamas name tag or in a Hamas uniform. So really, how to characterize, well, that's Hamas based on this presumption that, well, Hamas is everywhere. Yeah. So, and there, yeah,
That's
to
a
have
that's a
the
stark that's a
idea
stark
that
observation. But Colonel, that's a stark observation. You said you've never seen anyone armed on the Palestinian side in your entire time in Gaza. Is that correct? And have any of your colleagues, close colleagues, seen many armed men? How often was it?
no, we've never. So there, I can't speak to everybody's experience, especially since the time that after the 26th, the 25th of June when I left. Um, I have not, I haven't been there since, so I don't know what has been seen. But up until that point, there was never, not one time did we see an armed Palestinian or any Palestinian in that matter conveying a threat or conveying hostility or conveying violence or any type of threat towards us in any way whatsoever. In fact, there was an incident on the 2nd of June where a guard, a security operator, threw a stun grenade into the crowd and it detonated near me, and it knocked me backwards and I fell to the ground. And the person that came to pick me up off the ground and help get me out of this plume of tear gas was one of the Palestinian men that was there collecting food. Um, and I never saw any Palestinian armed or returning fire or in any way posing a physical threat to life. Not once.
And how many times have you seen UG personnel, which is the security company that's offering security for the Gaza Health Organization, a humanitarian organization, which we're going to talk about in a bit? I've got a lot of questions there. Or the IDF shooting near or at the crowd, I think not directly at the crowd, but near their feet, so they disperse. How often have you seen that happen in your stay?
Every day. Every day. Coming when the crowd of Palestinians was coming to the sites, they were being shot at their feet, over their heads, and sometimes into the crowds as they left the sites. Also, with the UG Solutions personnel also firing warning shots, at their feet, over their heads, into the berms, every day, every single day, every single
But
distribution.
why? Because so what happens? Is there first like someone with a speaker that says, "Guys, please disperse or go this way, that way," and if they don't listen, they're forced to fire warning shots in the air? What's the process before firing?
So, what I would call, responsible and prudent, was that if we all had some kind of standard operating procedure or rules of engagement or to the like, which we did not. So, let as an example, if we're on one of the distribution sites and the IDF communicate to the UG Solutions, they move the Palestinians off. They need to leave. We need to clear the area. The kind of the standard operating procedure of what would happen is, the contractors start yelling, hey, get out, go, start moving forward with a security line. and then it became almost automatic in terms of just the process of then spraying pepper spray, throwing stun grenades, and then pushing the crowd out. um, Coming up if someone was there that was still scrounging for that last bit of food. I witnessed it on site. I've witnessed a Palestinian man who was on his hands and knees picking up noodles, individual noodles, and putting them into his bag, who was sprayed with an entire can of pepper spray in his face by a UG Solutions contractor. And once they're pushed off the site, then the UG Solutions would fire warning shots at their feet, over their heads, to continue for them to continue to move. And I don't know why it devolved into doing that, because in my opinion, there was never, in my assessment, what I saw, there was never a need to do that. It was just immature, unprofessional behavior. There was never a need for that. And I suggested to them instead, in one of my recommendations, instead of just the contractors just yelling and saying get out of here and starting to use pepper spray, why don't we invest the money that at each site we have a loudspeaker system, like an actual broadcast loudspeaker system, where an interpreter can communicate to them in words in their language, to leave the site, that you have 5 minutes to leave the site. Like, I thought that would have been effective, but we don't have that. So
But why? Why? Like, it would not only save lives, but also save money, save bullets, save grenades. I'm assuming this is in your 25 years in the US military. What was the process like when distributing aid in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan versus what you're seeing in Israel, in Gaza?
Well, so what I've seen in other countries, or in other conflicts and other wars, is that the aid itself, the actual distribution of aid, or the humanitarian assistance, isn't done by the military arm. It's not done by combat forces. It's done by those that are that are professionals in that trade. Where in a war zone, the military assists with it happening, in terms of establishing area security, securing an area, so these things can be done. But I've never seen it in my career to where the humanitarian assistance and the humanitarian aid distribution is put into the hands directly of a combatant, or of an armed force. So that's one observation. Second observation is to why is that I think that um, it's very apparent to me, because remember, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is there's it it's not doing anything in Israel, Gaza. The contract, the actual executioner of the actual distribution and the aid, is Safe Reach Solutions, which is a for-profit business. They are a for-profit company. So everything they do, so they have a contract. They have a contract with Israel that states, here's how you'll do this. So if it wasn't in the contract, if it wasn't in the initial contract to have it, then Safe Free Solutions is not obligated to spend money to do it. So if using loudspeakers, or having creating signs to put out on I suggested early on, like, what would be really helpful at the intersection, at the corridor, would be a sign. Put a sign there that tells people which way to go, instead of just shooting at them. Put a loudspeaker.
But why would the IDF not request those things in the contract with the for-profit organization, which is going to have a whole bunch of questions on that separately? And second, why wouldn't Safe Free Solutions, a security provider, do that just to save bullets and grenades,
Those are your
let alone
questions, sir.
lives?
Are the questions that I have been asking since day one. Why? wh- to your point, right? Instead of a saving money mechanism, like, it'd be a whole lot cheaper to invest in some loudspeakers and some signs, instead of continuing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on resupplying stun grenades and tear gas and bullets. Like, I that question, sir, is the question that I have been asking from day one. Which I will say, in terms of me resigning from UGS, I was not the first. On the very first day of distribution, the 26th of May, day one, the director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation stepped down because of his concerns, exactly going into that planning. Like, why This plan is not good. Jake Wood stepped down from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation on day one of distribution. The second in charge of the entire contract in Gaza, a seasoned Green Beret, resigned in protest on the second day of distribution. So these things that I brought up, to your point, sir, that question, $1 million question. Why not? Why wasn't it put in the contract? Why is so we provide them no water. So another case of a contract point, they get no we deliver and distribute no water at all. At all to a starving population that's cut off from all resources. We give them no water. All of the food that we give them is dried food that requires water to cook it. And we give them no water. Why? Why? Because it's not in the contract. I am not making this up because it's not in the contract.
I took my phone. He just messaged my team to try to get an interview with Jake Woods, and they sent me a link on Reddit talking about Jake Woods' resignation. I've just got so many questions, Colonel, about that aid organization, and I will move on to that. I've got one more story that you've talked about that I don't think people are focusing on enough. Everyone talks about the the young boy, which is heartbreaking, the attempts to discredit you. But there was also a story about snipers being ordered to shoot at kids, 2 or 3 kids. For me, that was a
Yes.
pretty crazy story. That story, it should be the main focus of your experience. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, and that again, that's the incident that to me, everything that I witnessed beforehand on the sites, I could consider in terms of the fog and the friction and the violence and the uncertainty and the complexity of war, and that don't question you can't question every decision and things that are made. And I my position on that was like, hey, we can fix these things with leadership. The incident that I witnessed on the 8th of June is something that wasn't a leadership issue. And what was said to me on that day is what for me was a matter of crossing what I would call my red line. So on the 8th of June, I was at site number 4 earlier in the morning that day on site number 4 in the north. I was at because we did an early morning distribution where we were setting up at 3 a.m. We were distributing by 5 a.m. So after distribution on site number 4, I traveled back to Karim Shalom, where the main operations center is, and um, I was then in the main operations center, um, on the radio, kind of conducting doing the operations coordination for distribution um, at site number 2 for that distribution period. So I kind of switched roles in times where I was on the site during distribution, or I was in the control room, kind of mission commanding. Like NASA mission command, Houston. This is Apollo. This is Houston type of stuff. So I'm in the control room. Site number 2 is very small. It's the smallest of all of our sites in terms of the area for where we put the distribution. It gets very crowded very quickly. Um, Imagine like a Black Friday sale at Walmart when the doors kick open and thousands of people are going in and crushing through this small opening. That's how site number 2 is. And as the Palestinians are just more and more people are coming in,